A common thing that people say that are dieting are not used to it, that if they diet, have one bad meal, they put it all back on. Now, is that bloating and just gut irritation, or is it actually them putting on the weight?
I mean, majority of it is going to be the GI tract inflammation, water weight, and a lot of inflammatory processes that happen when you reintroduce bad food. It's difficult to lose 3 pounds in a week of body fat and then to think one meal is going to put all that back on. You're going to put potentially a small portion of it on because of the gross calorie intake at the time. But again, majority of it's just the sheer volume of food hasn't kind of worked its way through your system, or the irritation to the gut and the problems that kind of creates from the food. Bloating, is a common topic in our offices. One of the biggest things that we train our staffs to ask our clients when they weigh in is, how frequently are we going number two? Think about it. When you lose weight, okay, where do you think it goes? Does it magically just dissipate into the air? Yeah, you get rid of it. I mean, you have to go to the bathroom to lose weight. And if you're not going to going to the bathroom frequently, then you're going to have an inherent slowdown of your processes of losing weight. The body's smart. If you're not getting rid of what it's breaking down and essentially eliminating, it's going to slow down the want to eliminate it, right? So if you have, for lack of a better word, a backlog of number two kind of in your system, you're not going to break down fat and lose weight as fast because your body essentially recognizes that you're already behind. And until you get back on track again, going smoother and getting your system on track again, I promise you, your weight loss is going to take a toll.
And what is a regular amount of times to visit the bathroom for a twosie?
I mean, one time a day should be what you're always kind of looking forward to. There are people who go more frequent, and I think that just has to do with the quality of the food you take in, potentially some of the dietary supplements that you may use along with it. Dietary fiber can assist in that process. But remember, when we go into a diet program, what you put into your body changes dramatically. So if you're used to a sheer volume of food that has now been reduced substantially, then your need to go to the restroom at your traditional time is going to feel different because you simply don't have the amount of food in your system that feels like it needs to make its way through. So we recommend to take dietary fiber like Metamucil or something else to keep your GI tract flowing. We have some dietary supplements that we've custom compounded for our practice, one of which is called Cleanse. It kind of helps the body move food through it. Having fiber-rich foods, cabbage and certain fruit choices, broccoli that have higher fiber volumes, that will tend to help your GI tract keep along. And just remember, I mean, if you're not going to the restroom as often as you think you should, or you're going days without it, that's a problem. And that's going to ultimately not only create health problems for you, it's going to create immune system issues. Down the road, it can have some very serious health complications on you. But for the short term, you're not going to see the weight loss. And you're going to be disappointed and you're going to be ultimately uncomfortable.
And run me through gluten allergies and other allergies that potentially cause that bloating that a lot of people experience today.
I mean, allergies or intolerances or enzyme deficiencies, however you want to categorically put these things, whether it's a problem with gluten, which a lot of people think they have, or oftentimes it's actually an intolerance to the glyphosate that's actually on wheat that we can't digest.
And that's the Roundup?
Right. Because a lot of these oats and a lot of these products that have or are made with gluten have a ton of pesticides put on them in order to actually be grown in the masses. But taking all that to the side, if you have a particular type of food choice, whether it's lactose, gluten, maybe you have diverticulitis or some GI problem in which you shouldn't have, nuts or broken down food, whatever it is, avoid that food, obviously. But those food choices, if creating irritation and inflammation, are going to have problems that go well beyond just like fat accumulation. You're going to have a lot of inflammation problems. Inflammation, causing the swelling and the water retention, both in the gut and the body, is going to be something we see on the scale. So we want to avoid those things if we know they're present and try to work around them to a point where they're not going to cause a problem for you. If you knew you were allergic to cats, you wouldn't go into someone's home as a cat every day. So if you knew you have a gluten intolerant, you probably shouldn't be eating gluten every single day. If you have a lactose intolerance, you probably wouldn't be drinking milk every day. And so you got to figure out what works with you and what doesn't work with you. There are tests that can be done. Now, we don't do them at Nuviva, but that can help you identify your true medical intolerances to certain foods.
There's one other thing that I wanted to touch on, and I heard this recently from Peter Attia, who's a very, very smart guy, but he was talking about the difference between fruit juices and fruits. And so his example was, we think about if I had a glass of grapefruit juice, everyone's like, wow, that's good for you because it's fruit. However, there was 8 grapefruits in that one glass. But if he was to try and eat 8 grapefruits, no chance in Hades that he'd be able to do that because of the fiber in it. That there's an important thing with, if someone has a sweet tooth, eat as much fruit as you can because there's going to be a fibrous benefit to the fruit that we eat.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say eat as much fruit as you can because there are parts of our diet that maybe the fruit isn't permissible, but never drink your calories, always eat your calories. Drinking calories don't typically get you full, eating them typically do. Nature has provided a lot of great fiber and things that are kind of blockades to your abilities to eat that large volume of that fruit. And so you're absolutely correct. 8 full grapefruits would be very difficult to eat, but yet we could drink it in a moment. And so I am very quick to remind people, do not drink your calories. If you're going to have fruit, make sure you eat it because then it provides a volume of fiber benefit. It also has all the things nature was intended to provide you and not just the sugary, water that's provided with a little bit of vitamin supplementation. Yes, there are some juicing diets that are really good for you. They're not very applicable to a dieting program as far as weight loss is concerned. They're good for like detoxes and ways to help you kind of cleanse yourself. And if you hate broccoli or you hate kale and you're looking for a way to get those nutrients from it in, there are better choices than adding it to a smoothie in which you added a grapefruit and an apple and a banana to make it tolerable. They have these things in powdered versions, dehydrated versions, or alternative products that have equally as good nutrient or vitamin value to them, and you can avoid that product into itself. So sometimes we use the idea that it has some health foods in it as excuses of why to drink something that's not great for us. Tropical smoothie and Smoothie Kings are kind of notorious for having these high calorie, high sugar kind of smoothies in them. And people think they're going there and doing themselves a dieting favor. The reality is those things have equally as much sugar and calories as half the stuff at Ben and Jerry's. Not much different.
And Coca-Cola, same amount of
sugar.
Sugar.
Coca-Cola is a glass of orange juice, and your body doesn't really know much difference. I mean, whether you drink a Coke versus you drink a glass of orange juice, it has about the same amount of sugar. So if you think you're being that much healthier because you went with the orange juice versus the Coca-Cola, as far as dieting and macronutrients are concerned, you're fooling yourself. Yes, it has more vitamin C and some good antioxidants in it, but it doesn't have a better dieting value to you. And likewise goes for a lot of other things that are juiced or smoothied. And so when it boils down to it, try to eat your food real, consume it, drink some like 0-calorie products such as water, tea, black coffee, mineral waters, things like this that obviously are not high in calories. And you'll tend to see that the weight loss process is a lot easier. Dehydration is also something to just make sure you avoid. When we find ourselves being hungry, oftentimes it's that we're dehydrated. And so a large glass of ice water can tend to do a whole lot better for you than a meal would. And so you'll end up finding yourself feeling hungry, feeling satiated when all a glass of water or mineral water or something was what your body was truly asking you to do for it. And all of a sudden the hunger goes away. And plus it'll help your GI tract move and you won't be constipated and you'll find yourself back on track again.